The most exciting car in this rally, perhaps, the Audi Quattro, turbocharged four-wheel drive. This is the car of the future.
It's impossible to talk about Group B Rally without discussing the Audi Quattro, a car that championed a technology that it's fair to say changed rallying forever. Never mind its status as arguably the most iconic car of the era, the Quattro revolutionized rallying and has gone down as one of the most important cars in the sport's history. Not bad considering its unlikely origins. The Quattro story dates back to 1976, when Audi, which was under the ownership of Volkswagen and still is, began testing the Iltis, a vehicle designed to serve as a replacement for the German military's outdated BKW Munger. The combination of a longitudinally mounted 1.7-litre four-pot and a selectable four-wheel drive system led to a potent off-road package, one that secured a contract from the German military. Having sold their previous Type 181 to the general public, VW decided to do the same with the Iltis. Unfortunately, VW put off potential customers with a pricing structure that was less a car deal and more a stick-up. Desperate for publicity, VW turned to motorsport. Freddie Kolunski and Gerd Loffelmann headed a factory-backed team of 4 Iltai that were entered for the 1980 Paris-Dakar Rally. The cars were subject to mild modifications, new camshafts, additional running lights and 100 horsepower 4-cylinder engines, around 30 more than the base model. Unbelievably, Kolunski and Loffelmann ended up winning the event, with the remaining vehicles taking 2nd, 4th and 9th. An incredible achievement that underlined the Iltis's off-road capabilities. Victory at Dakar reaffirmed to Audi's engineers the promise of this drivetrain layout. During those initial tests, chassis engineer Jörg Bensinger noted the efficacy of the Iltis's four-wheel drive configuration and wondered if it was possible to marry such a system to a saloon car. Granted, this wasn't without precedent. Four-wheel drive cars had been around for decades, but cars that used it tended to be either purpose-built off-roaders or, in the case of the Jensen FF, cumbersome GTs. This was partly due to the heavy transfer case needed to shift power and torque between the axles. Bensinger pitched his idea to head of Audi R&D Ferdinand Piëch, who gave the green light, provided the end result included a high-performance road car in true Piëch fashion. Bensinger was joined by a development team led by Walter Tresser, and the group promptly set about converting an Audi AT saloon from front-wheel drive to four-wheel drive using the Iltis's drivetrain. The mule was taken to the Austrian Alps, along with a group of Audi executives who were very impressed with the AT's traction on loose surfaces and gave the go-ahead for the four-wheel drive system to be put into production. The 5-cylinder engine was mounted longitudinally ahead of the front axle, sending power through a 5-speed transmission to a center differential. Traditionally, this is where four-wheel drive cars would have had a bulky transfer case, but thanks to the work of transmission experts Hans Nedvedek and Franz Tenkler, Audi were able to avoid this. By making the transmission output shaft hollow, they could run a second shaft through it in the opposite direction to drive the front wheels. An inspired brainwave that would go on to revolutionize not just motorsport, but personal transport in general. The Audi Quattro was born. Debuting at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show, it proved to be an immediate head-turner, with attendees being drawn to the very 80s coupe-style bodywork and brilliant white paint, only to realize the true innovations lay beneath. We'll continue this story after a short break. I've always loved racing games. Sim racing, arcade style, doesn't matter to me. If there's cars in it, I'm there. And thanks to this video's sponsor Gameloft, I get to talk about one for the next minute or so. Asphalt Legends.
Oh, sorry about that, mate. Sorry about that. Oh, that was bad.
If you don't already know Asphalt Legends, which would frankly shock me, it's a fun, free-to-play arcade-style racing game packed with action, like sending it off a ramp while using nitro. You know, for when you're in a mild rush.
Is that a Mustang Mach-E? You deserve that.
It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch and mobile. You can bezz about with your friends on fun courses in a staggering selection of cool cars, and you can play anywhere, with the ability to easily pick up where you left off just by logging in from another device.
Nice, easy win. That's a good car.
So scan the QR code on screen or follow the link in the description to download Asphalt Legends for free. I mean, come on, it's free. And with my link in the description, you'll also get a free in-game reward. Thanks again to Gameloft for sponsoring this section of the video, and now back to the story of the Audi Quattro. The revolutionary four-wheel drive system was complemented by fully independent rear suspension, while its 2.1-litre turbocharged 5-cylinder produced 200 horsepower and allowed for a 0 to 60 time of 7 seconds, around half a second to a second faster than Fiat's rear-drive 131. Not bad for what was, in essence, a parts bin special based on an Audi 80 floor plan. Audi had a designated group of 20 employees that built the Quattros by hand. Each a master at their craft, there was little doubt in Piëch's mind as to where the Quattro was headed: the stages. At the time, Group 4 regulations were still in effect, and in an age of nimble two-wheel drive coupes like the Fiat 131 and Mark II Ford Escort, the Quattro stuck out like a sore thumb. Contrary to popular belief, the Quattro was not the first four-wheel drive rally car, as Subaru had fielded a trio of Leons at the 1980 Safari Rally. However, it's safe to say that given what they would go on to achieve, Audi were the first to make the concept good. With around 300 brake horsepower on tap, the Quattro's potential was obvious to some. Initially, the car actually had its fair share of skeptics. Many raised doubts over its mechanical complexity and healthy 1,200 kilogram curb weight. For context, the 1980 title-winning Fiat 131 Abarth tipped the scales at around 980 kilograms. That is a hell of a lot less. The car made its debut at the 1980 Algarve Rally. Well, technically. At the time, Audi had yet to produce the 400 road cars needed for homologation. As a result, the team was forced to enter the Quattro as a course car, officially contesting the stages for safety purposes. Though driven at full chat, development driver Hannu Mikkela's times would not count towards the overall result. Had that not been the case, Mikkela would have beaten the official victor, Antonio Zanini, and his Ford Escort RS 1800 by over half an hour. Having proven beyond all doubt the Quattro's capability, Piëch and his team were keen to tackle the World Rally Championship in earnest. Audi entered 8 rounds of the 1981 season and secured 3 wins. Mikkela took victory at round 2 in Sweden before repeating the feat at the season finale in Great Britain. That additional win, though, in San Remo is an interesting story. Widely regarded as the greatest female racing driver of all time, Michèle Mouton's credentials long predated her partnership with Audi. After making her competitive debut in 1973, Mouton wasted little time in making her presence felt. She won the French National and European Ladies Championship in 1974, yes, that was a real thing, it was actually called that, and was part of an all-female driver lineup at Le Mans in 1975. Driving a Moynet LM75 Simca, Mouton and her teammates took victory in the 2-litre class. Add to the equation 8 further points finishes as a privateer in the World Rally Championship between 1975 and 1980, and it's easy to see why Audi came a-knockin'. After suffering a catalogue of technical problems in Monte Carlo, Corsica and Greece, San Remo was to be Mouton's breakthrough. The 30-year-old went toe-to-toe with that year's eventual champion, Ari Vatanen, and came out on top after the Finn made a rare mistake on the final day. She may have had a car advantage on the loose surface, as Vatanen was driving a rear-wheel drive Escort, but besting a man many considered to be one of the greatest drivers of his era was no small feat. Despite the part-time campaign, Mikkela and Mouton did enough to secure 5th place in the manufacturer's standings for Audi, which warranted a more substantial campaign for 1982. That year marked the beginning of the infamous Group B era. Group B would become famed for its extreme and extremely dangerous machines. But the technological revolution that underpinned this coming madness had been pioneered by Audi and others competing in Group 4. So how potent would this first mover advantage prove to be? Amidst the excitement of a newly unshackled World Rally Championship, Mouton found herself unexpectedly thrust into the role of team leader. Despite starting the season strong with a 2nd place finish in Monte Carlo, Mikkela's campaign was dogged by a series of mechanical issues. 5 retirements from the opening 8 rallies put an end to any title aspirations he may have had, though he was able to salvage some pride with 2 wins late in the season, including a memorable home win in Finland. I'm compelled to mention this win in particular as it was one he achieved in spite of a broken differential that left him stranded in 143rd place after stage 2. That is a massive recovery drive. But with Mikkela effectively out of the running, Audi's hopes rested on Mouton. Her main rival, Walter Röhrl, may have been armed with a 2-wheel drive Opel Ascona, but the 1980 world champion was quick to make his intentions clear. Röhrl took victory at the season opener in Monte Carlo and finished on the podium in 5 of the next 7 events. Not to be outdone, Mouton took victory in Portugal and Greece. A possible 3rd win in New Zealand fell victim to a broken fuel pump, following which Mouton was left 32 points off the championship lead. However, she bounced back with victory in Brazil and a 4th place in San Remo, which landed her within 10 points of Röhrl. Such was the promise of Mouton's title challenge that Audi went back on its decision not to contest the African endurance events. The team was dispatched to the Ivory Coast for the penultimate round of the season. Had Mouton won, with Roll in second, she would have been just 2 points behind him, going into the final round in Great Britain. Unfortunately for Mouton, the already arduous task ahead of her was compounded by a personal tragedy. Just before the rally started, Mouton received word that her father had passed away in France. His final wish was that she start the rally, and she did just that, with both the Quattro and its occupants being pushed to the limit. Thanks in part to in-car temperatures of 65 degrees Celsius, Mouton held the lead going into the final day. Problems with the fuel injectors and gearbox allowed Roll to close up, but what ended Mouton's historic run was a dramatic accident that saw the car roll over. While she was able to continue, persistent mechanical issues as a result of the crash forced her to retire. A sad end to a title challenge that very nearly made history. That said, the combined efforts of Mouton and Mikola were enough to give Audi their first manufacturer's title, proving that in spite of the compromises, Audi's concept was a force to be reckoned with. 1983 saw Lancia throw their hat into the Group B ring with the nimble two-wheel drive 037, a car whose agility went some way to compensate for its lack of traction. Not to be outdone though, Audi responded with the Quattro A1, which sported wider arches, air inlets in front of the rear wheels, and a 340 horsepower version of the turbocharged inline 5. It was also more reliable, a fact Mikola exploited to the fullest as he claimed his first and only driver's crown. However, a valiant and some might say questionable bid by Lancia gave them the manufacturer's championship, the last time a non-four-wheel drive car would win a World Rally title of any kind. With money to burn and a point to prove, Audi set about enhancing the Quattro for 1984. What resulted was the Quattro A2. It sported an upgraded body kit, modified turbo, 20 additional horsepower, and a shorter wheelbase, an attempt to rectify the car's chronic understeer. Anything but move the engine, right, Audi? Stig Blomqvist won the driver's title with a then record 5 wins. Though a highly consistent Lancia gave Audi plenty to think about, the German giants clinched their second manufacturer's crown too. Despite their success, Audi was sent a warning shot in 1984. As the sport grew in popularity, the development race began to heat up. This was epitomised by Peugeot, who debuted their rapid mid-engine 205 T16, which despite contesting just 5 of that year's 12 events, managed 3 wins with Vartman behind the wheel and secured 3rd place in the Manufacturers' Championship. A rethink was needed, and for 1985, Audi answered the call by unveiling the most extreme iteration of its Quattro to date, the S1. It featured a sizable front splitter and rear wing, pioneering a new age of aerodynamic development in rallying. It sported a new 6-speed H-pattern gearbox and an upgraded inline 5 that purportedly produced up to 580 brake horsepower with the variable boost turned up. The battery, alternator, oil coolers and radiator were all moved to the back of the car in an attempt to act as a counterweight to the car's forward-mounted engine, which was leading to that persistent understeer. These made a difference, though the 55-45 front-rear weight distribution was still far from ideal. In addition to its otherworldly performance, the S1 was said to hit 60 miles an hour in less than 3 seconds on gravel. The S1 had its fair share of innovations. Audi experimented with a device internally referred to as the bomb. Atop the gear lever lay a small white button that, when pressed, triggered hydraulics that automatically depressed the clutch pedal in order to quicken gear changes. It's said to have worked brilliantly, but after several Audi mechanics had their left feet broken by the pedal snapping back during testing, it was seldom used in competition. Clever, quick, and downright unhinged when driven flat out, the Quattro S1 remains one of the most memorable cars of the era. That's despite the fact it only took victory once at San Remo with Walter Roll at the helm. By 1985, Peugeot had developed the T16, which, when allied to Timo Salonen, proved pretty much unstoppable. Salonen took 5 wins en route to the championship, 4 of which came in consecutive order, a record that stood for 20 years. By the end of the season, Lancia 2 had joined the fray with its mid-engine twin-charged Delta S4. Despite Audi's very best efforts, it was clear the cumbersome front-engine Quattro was starting to lag behind. A car that was once at the cutting edge of new technology was now looking old hat. And unfortunately for Audi, they wouldn't really get a chance to hit back in 1986 either. After the now infamous Stage 1 accident at Round 3 in Portugal, Audi was prompted to reassess its prospects for the rest of the season. After the passing of Henri Toivonen and Sergio Cresto just 2 rallies later in Corsica, the decision was made that Group B wouldn't return in 1987, and with little left to compete for, Audi decided to scale back its 1986 championship bid. The Quattro name soldiered on into the Group A era, albeit in the form of the 80, 200 and Coupe. Audi secured a final win at the 1987 Safari Rally and bagged second in the manufacturer's race, but this particular breed of Quattro was never able to match the dizzying heights of its predecessor, nor could it hold a candle to the more advanced Group A offerings from Lancia and later Toyota. That may have marked the end of Audi's tenure in the World Rally Championship, but they went on to deploy their groundbreaking technology to absolutely dominate in North America. More on that here. Nearly 50 years on, the Quattro's legacy can be seen all around us. Not only did it make two-wheel drive cars obsolete on the rally stages, it went on to underpin millions of road cars, granting everyday drivers the extra traction that won Audi 2 championships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.